Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a huge pattern change that is coming to the United States over the next 7 days, and this is going to bring much warmer temperatures to a large chunk of the country, but it's also going to bring the potential for another large storm as we go into early next week, and that large storm is going to bring the potential for a winter storm in addition to more severe weather across much of the United States. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin with what's happening right now in the United States today that'll lead to this large pattern change across much of the country. And we're going to begin with the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and this is where we have a large storm that is just spinning north of Wisconsin, and we actually did see a couple of severe storms today in areas like Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, but overall the severe weather risk is really low today. The environment is just not ripe with this particular storm for severe weather. As you noticed yesterday, we had the potential for some strong tornadoes. That didn't even happen, and so obviously this is not a really intense storm when it comes to severe weather, but it did dump a lot of snow across the northern and central plains. You can actually see that snow, by the way, on the infrared imagery this evening. All this white stuff in here, that stationary cloud cover, quote unquote, is actually snow that is on the ground with sunny skies. So there's a lot of snow on the ground across the northern and central plains, but overall for the next 24 hours this storm will continue to move to the northeast. We have a low pressure system just offshore east of North Carolina. You can barely see it, but this is basically acting like a wall, and it's almost like a detour for this storm. So this storm is actually going to be moving north and northeast into Canada instead of moving offshore into the Atlantic Ocean. So it's going to be a little bit of a delay at this point in terms of when it'll go into the Atlantic Ocean. But what's going to be interesting over the next few days is that we're actually going to have another storm develop right in the southeast United States. That's going to be a redevelopment of the storm that we have right now, and that's going to bring the potential for some really heavy rainfall going to tomorrow, Friday, and even into early Saturday for much of the East Coast, including areas in the mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, and even New England. And then back over in the Great Plains, again, we're drying out for the most part right now, and also on the west coast of the country, there's really nothing happening there for now, and I think it'll stay that way for the next few days. You might remember from our previous forecast, this map of the watches and warnings across the country was very colorful, and it was all across the country. It's not very colorful anymore. We don't have many watches or warnings in effect anymore after this large storm has for the most part moved out. We still have a few winter storm warnings in effect in northern Minnesota, but that's really about it. Some wind advisories in effect across Indiana and Kentucky. We also have some flood watches in effect down in the southeast, but really nothing to write home about. The only thing I would be paying attention to here if you're in the United States tonight would be areas like Missouri, western Illinois, even northeast Oklahoma. We have a freeze warning in effect. Yes, we have a freeze warning here. That is for late March in effect for many areas in Kansas, Missouri, northwest Arkansas, and northeast Oklahoma. So be very mindful of this tonight. It is definitely going to be something to watch for. Obviously, make sure you're protecting your sensitive vegetation, and also make sure you're protecting the 4 Ps, which is pipes, plants, pets, and people. All right, let's talk more about this big pattern change that is coming to the United States over the next several days. And to look at this, we're going to actually look at the jet stream. This gives us an idea of the weather patterns that are happening across the country. This is tomorrow. Notice the low pressure system is still going to be spinning back up in areas like Canada. Here's your jet stream, by the way, your trough access, all that sort of stuff. But that's where the center of this low pressure system will be by tomorrow morning. Still a pretty strong jet stream here across the East Coast, and we're not really going to see much severe weather tomorrow across the East Coast because even though the jet stream is very favorable with the southwesterly flow, we really don't have many ingredients near the surface like moisture content or instability for severe weather. But there will be some turbulence if you plan on flying tomorrow. An example from like Florida all the way back into like Tennessee, for example. If you're flying, there will be some turbulence on your flight there due to the jet stream being so strong. Once we go into late Thursday into Friday, though, things are going to change a little bit. That low pressure system moves to the north. That secondary low pressure system will develop across the East Coast. We're actually going to dry out, though, for much of the country for both Friday and Saturday. The only exception, again, being the East Coast. But by the time we go into Saturday, watch this large storm back over in California on Saturday. This will be our next concern across the Great Plains as we go into Sunday and eventually into the first day of April. We are going to have a very strong storm crossing the Rocky Mountains, and there is still some uncertainty regarding how intense this is, how much snow it brings, and where it brings severe weather, but we do have a pretty good general gist at this point that this is going to bring some impacts. The jet stream will be very strong out of the southwest. Again, this being a southwesterly flow on Monday, April 1st, and by the way, this is not an April Fool's joke. Once we go into late Monday into Tuesday, the system moves across the Midwest, which actually could promote the chance for some snow in areas like the Midwest on Monday, and eventually by Tuesday into Wednesday, this moves into the Northeast, and we also could see some snow in the Northeast if it takes this general track across the areas in the northern and central plains. plains, and as well as back into the Midwest and the Northeast. So let's break this down into more simplistic terms for you, giving you an idea of the future radar, what's going to be happening over the next 7 days, where there's going to be snow, where will there be a chance for severe weather. We're going to break that all down for you here in the next couple of minutes. Beginning with Wednesday morning, your low pressure system north of Michigan. This will basically bring a little bit more snow to northern parts of Minnesota, but that's about it. A redevelopment of showers and storms will continue across the southeast. There is a low threat of severe weather in central and northern Florida tomorrow afternoon and evening, so be mindful of that. Main concern will be damaging winds and isolated large hail. By the time we go into Thursday, that low pressure system does redevelop right around North Carolina and South Carolina. By Friday, this is moving into the Atlantic Ocean, and if we were still in January, which we're not, but if we were in January, this actually could bring the potential for a nor'easter, but we are not in January, so no snow for the Northeast, unfortunately, out of this. Once we go into Saturday, we are going to watch for one storm to develop across the Central Plains, and it'll move into the Midwest. This is not the large storm that we're talking about, though. This will bring a little bit of snow, maybe a few showers and thunderstorms, perhaps a little bit of severe weather across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, but any severe weather will be a very low risk. We're not talking about any sort of severe weather outbreak here. Once we go into Sunday into Monday, though, it gets a little bit different. Look at this as we go into late Sunday into Monday. We are going to have a storm develop right over the Rocky Mountains and eventually into the Central Plains by Monday. We will be watching for showers and thunderstorms across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. We'll also be watching for plenty of snowfall across areas in the Rocky Mountains and the Northern Plains, and this is also going to bring the chance for another winter storm for those in the Northern Plains, even parts of the Midwest, and as well as the Northeast as we go into early next week. Notice this by late Monday, we're going to be watching for some showers and thunderstorms, and this definitely has the chance to bring some isolated severe weather. We even could see some more significant severe weather out of this, but we are really far out, and the exact details of how much moisture there is, what instability levels there are, remains highly uncertain. So we really don't know exactly what's going to happen there when it comes to severe weather, but what we do know is that at least there's going to be some level of severe weather, at least some sort of chance of that. Once we go into Tuesday, this area of showers and storms will start to move down to the south and east. We'll be watching for this across the Ohio Valley back into Texas, and eventually as we go into late Tuesday into Wednesday, this system moves to the northeast. Notice there is a chance for snow in the northeast, but since this is still around Wednesday or Thursday, it does remain highly uncertain about how much snow we see and if it will be very impactful. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, stay tuned. We will be keeping you posted with the latest as this storm develops. Here's the probability of seeing greater than 1 inch of snowfall out of this particular event, and notice the ensembles are not really in great agreement in terms of what the chances are. Really, at this point, 30 to 40% chance of seeing greater than 1 inch of snowfall for many areas in the Midwest, including Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota. Meanwhile, the Northeast, you're in about a 25 to 35% chance. The higher elevations near about a 50-50 chance. So really, the chance right now of seeing even greater than 1 inch of snow still remains highly uncertain. So again, just make sure you're subscribed to our channel down below. It's free to do. We'll keep you posted with the latest over the next several days. Now, the temperature trends, they're going to change a little bit because of that cold air mass on the backside of this large low pressure system. That's going to bring many areas well below average when it comes to temperatures as we go into tomorrow and Thursday, but eventually as we go into Friday and Saturday, that warm air is going to return for much of the country, more spring-like for much of the country. Once we go into Sunday into Monday, we're still going to have that warm air mass, and eventually as we go into Tuesday, another shot of cold air will be possible across the Great Plains and the Midwest, but exactly how cold it gets still remains quite uncertain. In terms of the temperatures for tomorrow morning, that's for Wednesday morning, many areas dropping below freezing. We'll have some areas near 0 degrees in North and South Dakota as we go into tomorrow morning. It's going to get cold in some areas. Even in the Midwest, we're talking about low temperatures in the 20s, so be mindful of that. And again, make sure you're protecting sensitive vegetation, especially if you've already planted across areas like the Central Plains. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.